Hi guys, welcome. Hi Sly Cat, thank you. Thanks for the support. Yeah, so this is about murder among the Mormons. Um, I mean, right. At first, hi Ablavi, thanks for coming. At first, I was going to. I hope I don't look too tired because I've had a long Saturday today, guys. At first, I was going to do 1, 2, and 3 all together, but I've decided not to because there's a lot of information, you guys. I mean, if you've seen it, I thought I cannot. This is like doing homework, writing an essay. It's a lot. So I'm just going to do the first episode, like you can see when I posted it in the title. Um, so yeah, I will get my notes up. Um, Thanks for coming, everybody. I hope you guys have seen it. If not, I'll try my best to be, clear with all the facts because I've done all the facts basically. Yeah, so murder among the Mormons. I'll get right into it. So we all know this is in Utah, Salt Lake City. So obviously Utah is a very conservative community. It's kind of where Mormonism kind of started, come from. In the 50s, basically, they believed that Joseph Smith translated a golden plate, which he was kind of sent there by an angel, kind of is what they believe. And it's the Book of Mormons in gold plates. Now, he then forms the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That's what the LDS stands for. So Mormonism, obviously, apparently in history, they've always had stories of treasure and certain things being hidden, and people have always had the fascination of wanting to go out and look for this type of treasure. So back then, in the 70s and the 80s, Mormonism always had people that were interested in then going to look for these artifacts and these treasures and things that they believe are hidden out there. So hi Andrea, thanks for coming. So with the Mormons now, it then goes into this guy. They introduced this guy called Shannon Flynn, who was a rare document collector. He deals in rare documents back in the 70s and the 80s. Now, there was only a handful of those people in them times, they say. So he was one of those guys. He would often go and go into bookstores and look for these, little books, and think like the first thing that he bought, he said, in that's part of his collection, was a $10 little book that he found about Mormonism back in the 70s. And those type of things they then started collecting moving forward. So then it goes into him talking a little bit about the fact that him being at the bookstores, and that's where he met this character called Mark Hoffman. Now, remember this name. Mark Hoffman now, again, is a guy that all of a sudden, out of nowhere, started discovering all these artifacts that had to do with the Mormon history. So out of nowhere, this man would be coming up with things that, or coming out, I shouldn't say coming up. He would come out with letters, books, scriptures, things that he claimed were all connected to Joseph Smith, the founder of the LDS Church, which, to them, it's everything. It's obviously the main people in history. So then, Mark Hoffman, in Shannon's eyes, the dealer and the little community of dealers and collectors, is seen as kind of like the rock star, apparently, because like how he comes up with finding all these different things. They then felt like they kind of looked up to him, like, because they weren't making these discoveries, right? So then it goes into a little bit about Mark. Sorry guys, I'm just literally reading bit by bit. He was a Utah University student that seemed to be who came across this document, right? This is how Mark Hoffman's name kind of came out there in that Mormon, dealers, collectors kind of community. He claimed that he'd come across a document that seemed to be from the earliest Joseph Smith, the founder of the LDS Church's golden plate Bible, you know, the main Book of Mormons. So, hi guys, thanks for coming. Hi, Nisei. Yeah, so then he then basically kind of makes a name for himself, right? Due to saying that he's found all these important historical artifacts. Then Mark claims that he bought that particular Book of Mormons from a guy who then bought it from Joseph Smith's granddaughter. Now, you see that connection there? He claims that Joseph Smith's granddaughter had sold the Book of Mormons to a guy who then sold it to him. So he comes out with this discovery, and the church wants to know where he's getting these things from and think, you know, we need to by the way, the LDS church is very secretive in a way, so they always have to try and authenticate the stuff. Unless somebody authenticates the stuff, you know, they don't see it as something that you can pass on as it's authentic and it's real. So there's people that will do that for you within the church, and then they keep everything they've got, by the way. Then there's a guy called Brett Metcalf that comes into it. Who's a Mormon history researcher. He was very impressed with Mark and the work that he was doing, because he was seeing newspaper ads with him and all these high scholars in the Mormon church looking at his findings. So he always thought that was very impressive. So he was always interested in working with Mark, and Mark ends up employing him to do his genealogy research on the documents that he then claims to find, right? Then Mark Hoffman, obviously it was an era where his name in the 80s, he was very well known for constantly finding new artifacts, you know, letters, all sorts of stuff that had to do with the Mormon history. So then he branched out into doing documents. When I say documents, famous leaders, prominent names in the US history, signatures, stuff like that, he started getting into. So then Shannon and him became very good friends. You know, Shannon Flynn, the one I just mentioned, that was I think he was a rare document dealer. So he and Mark now become friends, but then Brett is involved as well, who's the researcher. They then obviously Shannon is again looking up to this guy who he sees as a rock star, right, in the Mormon community when it comes to dealing in artifacts and historical stuff. So on the one hand, the church, they say, is driven by the history, but on the other hand, when certain things are found, they are when certain findings, I should say, are capable of damaging the church, they tend to want to hush that type of information and not spread it to the followers, because when people start questioning is when problems arise, isn't it? So they don't want people to start questioning. They just want you to be a Mormon and believe every word they say. And then it goes into hi Alan, thanks for coming. I hope I'm not confusing you guys. Is it all right so far, the way I'm explaining it? Just let me know if you need me to slow down. Mark, right? Then all of a sudden, they find out that Mark has said he's found something new. Now, he comes up to Shannon and says, look at this. I've got the salamander letter. Now, I didn't know what this meant, but apparently the salamander letter is a letter that was within that golden plate Book of Mormons that Joseph Smith have found. So now Mark is claiming that he's discovered the letter of salamander. So then supposedly, the details in the letter is what got people riled up the wrong way, because he started basically the details in the letter. The original story was that Joseph was led to these golden plates by an angel. Now he changed this, and this particular letter, in the salamander letter, said that he was led by the white salamander to the golden plates. So now this became a bit of a controversy within the church, where it caused a little bit of an uproar. You know, the high scholars in the church didn't want him spreading this type of information. Then we jump into getting introduced to Rob Decker, who was back in the 70s, 80s, a journalist back in Utah. So he then says that it was always Mark Hoffman that time that he was writing about, constantly discovering stuff. Now, you see how I keep reminding you guys, Mark Hoffman constantly is discovering new things. Now, the Salamandra was really important because Martin Harris, who apparently was a very well-known name in the Mormon history, had said that Joseph Smith had told him that Joseph was led to the golden place by a white salamander. That's what it says in this particular letter. Now, this, again, got people really, really upset. They then spoke about it, or, you know, the word kind of spread, but they tried to hush it. Then you've got Mark Hoffman, who always knew they would try to silence him, right? And silence the things that he found. So he would always make copies and pass it on within the dealers community so everybody could have proof of what he claimed to have found, right? Then we jump into another character called Stephen Christensen. Now, he is a collector of books when it comes to history and stuff like that. He started getting interested in the Salamander letter. You know, he was always in support of the church being transparent with the findings that they got about the church. If the public would want to know, that we would be able to access it, but that wasn't always the case. So then Steve bought the Salamander letter from Mark Hoffman, right? He bought it. And then the president of the actual LDS church, called George Hinckley, was not happy. The fact that it exchanged hands and somebody else had bought it. So then Steve Christensen ends up donating the letter that he bought from Mark Hoffman, actually donated back to the church. So now they've got it. But when they've got certain documents, it's not open to the public to find. So obviously they've bought it, kept it, no one else can see it, that's kind of how they like it. But they quote that apparently Stephen Christensen had wrote a letter to the church when he sold the other letter, the original Salamander letter, to them, and said that it appears dealing in Mormon documents can be a dangerous business. End of quote. So he knew that this already didn't feel like this is some, you know, honest business or a good field to get into, because there was so much secrecy and, you know, all sorts of stuff going on in the background that he thought it wasn't for him. So then he goes into a coin dealer named Alvin Rust, who had a shop, and ended up loaning Mark Hoffman some money. He said $185,000, I think, towards a deal that he was about to make with the church, but he was due to make more money than that. So Alvin trusted him and had finance at the bank, so he fronted that money to Mark so he could go and do his business, and thought he would get it back, right? Because Mark now is claiming that he's got a new collection for sale called the McClellan collection. The McClellan collection. It's a bit of a tongue twister. But yeah, so Mark was planning to sell the whole of the collection to the church, the LDS church, for $300,000. Then this is now where the story goes into crime and murder. Then there's an explosion, right? In 1985, there's an explosion on the east side of Salt Lake City in the Judge Building, right? Downtown Salt Lake City, with a fatality, the news reports. Then they find out, Brett and Shannon and, you know, all these guys who were in the story previous that I mentioned, then find out that basically they find out that the fatality in that building ended up being because Steve Christensen, sorry, you see how I twisted that name around. Sorry, guys. Steve Christensen ended up dying because his secretary had took a package delivery, took it to his office, and it ended up being a bomb, and it exploded in his office. So he was done. He actually passed away straight away. And then an hour later, they report another explosion. Now I'm like, what's going on? These little Mormon, you know, community that doesn't seem like they're really up to anything. Now it's getting juicy. Like there's another explosion. Now people are thinking, what is going on? An hour later, they come to find out it's at Gary Sheets' house. Gary Sheets now is an associate of Steve Christensen. So he luckily isn't there. It's his wife. His wife picks up a package that's sitting on, I think, in front of their house, I think by the mailbox or something, picks it up. And obviously she then dies right on the spot. Is that, yeah, that's the guy with the weak voice. That's Shannon. No, Gary Sheets was another character they only mentioned when the bomb happened at his house. He was an associate. There was a few of them in and out of the story. But yeah, unfortunately, his wife died, passed away. And then they find out that the connection between the two men, Steve Christensen and this Gary Sheets, is that they both served as officers in a finance company. Now, the headlines now, people are just, at this point, people are confused. The newspapers are going mad with the headlines, talking about it's like living in Beirut because there's bombings left, right, and center. I mean, there's been 2 so far. So people are feeling like if there's been 2, there could be 3, 4, and, so forth. So people were scared. And then the police starts getting anonymous calls. They're threatening there's more bombs to come. This is not the only disaster. So now everybody's on edge. They didn't know what was going on and what was going to happen next. So now the police think that both men had some sort of financial dealings that were dodgy somewhere. So on the day after the bombing at Gary Sheets' house, usually Mark meets his friend Brent. Now, Brent explains that they usually catch up, him and Mark Hoffman, on a Wednesday, but this particular Wednesday, after the bombing, he didn't turn up. So he tries to call him. No, that's not correct. Sorry, guys. He basically tries to cancel because Brent didn't want to go, but Mark didn't pick up the phone, couldn't be found. So he just thought Mark's probably out and about trying to sell his artifacts as he does. Then at one point, Mark is being told by all his friends, they're concerned. He's concerned for his life at this point because the police is advising them, you've got to stay low. Like don't be out and about, maybe even leave your home because you can't stay there. You're not safe right now. Mark then doesn't take the advice. The LDS Church now at this point is denying any type of connection with Mark Hoffman, when really the rumors were that Mark Hoffman was about to make a sale with the LDS Church for that McClellan collection that he claimed to have had. So, but the LDS Church, I apologize, guys. LDS Church is denying having any interest in buying the collection from Mark. So they're already doing the usual stuff of distancing themselves, as they do. And then Mark Hoffman apparently had a meeting that morning of the bombing with Steve Christensen, the first bombing, but had called the office and rearranged to do it at 2:00 that afternoon. So now I'm thinking, you're looking dodgy, Mark. What's going on? Then there's another explosion. I mean, it was just crazy. There's another explosion. Hey, Bobo, thanks for joining us. There's another explosion. And is it Brent Metcalf? Yes, Brent Metcalf realizes, he hears it on the news that it's a particular Toyota something R car. Then he says in his head, that's Mark's car. Like, he knows that's Mark's car. So then they find that Mark Hoffman was actually in the car. This is towards the end now. We're coming towards the end. Mark actually gets in the car, in the explosion. He gets badly injured and gets taken to hospital. His wife now gets a call to come to the hospital. He's in bad shape. I mean, the police then go on and warn all the associates that they had, all the guys that were involved in the documentary, all got a warning from the police saying, watch your back, be careful. This is what's going on. This is real. You know what I mean? Be careful. So, then it kind of slows down and talks a little bit about how now the church really, people believe that the intention of the church to buy the McClellan collection, the intention was to suppress it. anything they acquire, this is the church, right? Anything that they acquire of anybody on the outside that's found about the history of Mormonism, straight away they buy it, kill it, because as soon as they've got it, it's not public proper. Like the public has no access to anything and anything they do. So whatever documents the church has, a lot of it is what I've realized in the first episode, because there's 2 and 3 left. We'll cover that in the next couple of days, so you guys will definitely have to check it out if you haven't already. But yeah, so that's kind of what happened in the first episode. If you enjoyed it, let me know. If you didn't, let me know. You know how we've got Andrea in Love After Lockup, that was in Love. Sorry, I'm getting my words. Andrea, who was in Love After Lockup, you know how she was a Mormon and tried to impress the girls and stuff. This really makes you kind of understand the history of it and really what type of person it takes to actually get involved in this. I mean, a lot of people are born into it. If you're from Salt Lake City, 100% you're going to be Mormon, isn't it? The majority of people are Mormon there. So yeah, I mean, what did you guys think? Let's not, bear in mind, this is episode 1. If you've seen it all, like myself, let's not get ahead of ourselves and kind of spoil it for the people that haven't seen it, because I really find it really interesting. Check it out, Murder Among the Mormons, and see what you think. I really found it interesting to see how the church only want certain things to come out that suit their narrative. But again, don't all businesses, again, it's a business, isn't it? Don't all businesses or places nowadays do that. So I think a lot of the time when you look into these type of docu-series about religion and those type of subjects, it's very sensitive. I'm only trying to give the opinion of, how should I say, what I've seen and the facts of that particular docu-series. I don't really know much about Mormonism, but yeah, I don't want to step on anybody's toes and say anything. But let me welcome Ablavi. Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for joining me. Did you?
Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, right?
Essentially, those files is basically saying their religion is not really Christianity and it's a cult.
Right.
Because Mormon actually got started in New York. But it was pushed out and it was pushed to Utah because, I don't know, it's the thing with the LDS. People don't know whether they're Christian or not, but that thing with Solomon was just awful. Awful. Because it's essentially saying it was magic.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because he said, oh, that's what I left out. Thank you for reminding me. The Moroni character. The Salamander letter changed to, instead of being a kind of like a prophet character, wasn't it? It turned into being some sort of magical or majestic character that led him there. You know what I mean?
What I also find interesting is, and see, I hate to say this, but this is why I refuse to live some places. How they keep on bombing people and nobody has a clue what's going on. They knew.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Sly Cat, they said that Joseph Smith found it. Joseph Smith character in the docu-series was the one who was led to the golden book, of Mormons. So they say he started and named the LDS church. So this is the 1950s. Yeah. Did you watch it, Diali?
I did. I've watched all of it, barring the last 10 minutes of the third one. But I won't. Right. But I just found it exactly as I thought it was.
Yeah.
Because you read about it, and my Christian faith is different for what they're trying to portray.
Make you believe.
It just comes across like a cult. They've took the Bible and they've twisted it to their own means, and it all seems very financial. You know, who's got the most, you know, up-to-date papers from, you know, from, I mean, it's so beyond silly. It really is silly. And yeah, they got conned. They got conned because everybody wants
this is
to like
episode 1, remember? This is episode 1.
Yeah. So it's interesting. It's exactly as I thought it was going to be. Exactly as I thought it was going to be. And Mark is a very interesting character. Very interesting character.
Well, they didn't really mention anything about polygamy, did they, in this? It was more about Mormons, wasn't it? It wasn't about what marriages and how people lived, really.
Because polygamy was outlawed by this time.
Right. Okay. I'm going to have to look into that maybe for episode 2.
That's a whole nother thing.
How polygamy kind of worked its way into Mormonism. I'd love to know how.
Same with anything.
They make the rules up as they go along. That's why.
See, and this is the thing. I think that's what I didn't really want to. I don't want to just kind of, you know, dismiss the whole thing. You know, it's people that believe in this, I suppose. My personal opinion about what I saw is that it seems to me like whatever you write down and then it's authenticated, now everybody believes it. So it's a bit, you know, what you said, like make it up as you go along and it's all right. But as soon as it goes against your narrative or makes people start having a brain cell for themselves rather than follow what you've got to say, then it's a problem, isn't it?
Yeah. Brainwashing. That's the other word I would say.
It would be, you know, it would be interesting to see if the people that are in this show are still Mormon. I'm wondering about that.
Who, if the people who collected stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, we could always find out.
Of course there will be, because they're so brainwashed and they're so believing.
The man with the soft voice, for example. Yeah.
And his voice has changed, because if you hear him when he was younger, his voice sounded decent.
Oh, his voice was normal, so he must have had some sort of a throat something. That's what I'm thinking. Something happened to his vocal cords.
But it's interesting to see how nobody in the church, remember, these people are like the Amish. They have their own police. They have their own, you know, it's really a different community.
Yeah, it's the land of make-believe, I would call it. It's the land of make-believe, and it's just look at,
it's so interesting, these shops they have, like a coin shop. It's like things I haven't seen before. It's so interesting.
Yeah, because remember, what did the man say in the beginning? When you get to the airport, set your clock back to the 1950s. Isn't that what he said? Because he said Utah was kind of like known for that. It was stuck in its time. It was so old, very conservative. People liked it that way. You know what I mean? The modern, you see, this what we see on Salt Lake City is miles away from what they want to portray. Do you know what I mean? These housewives of Salt Lake City. Oh, no, that is not what Salt Lake City is about. Maybe it is now, but again, you see how the internet and fame has took over everything they stood for, because these women who are portraying themselves as Mormons, real Mormons wouldn't have a tequila business, would they? Because that's in their eyes wrong, right? So
well, wait a minute. We could go and say that with, you know, people like to play fast and loose with what their morals are when money comes into play.
Yeah,
that's right.
Jamal Bryant. He is the king of slaying it down. You know, he's not supposed to be changing. He's not supposed to be collecting women like women change their panties. I mean, he's just ridiculous.
Yeah. It's just
no wonder Lamar couldn't wait to get back to LA. I mean, he's stuck in a time warp. I bet he couldn't believe his eyes. I think he wanted to actually go back to prison after seeing where this crazy woman had brought him to live.
it must have been awful for him. A town full of white guys. Do you remember the guy that tried to have a little chat with him around the fire with his red beard?
I was getting touchy-feely with him.
Oh God, it was just, he was like, what am I doing here? I'm so glad he convinced her to go, because she even, do you see how Andrea's kind of changed mentally a little bit?
Yeah,
she feels happier. She feels more alive. You know what I mean? She's got more spunk about her in LA. Whereas in Utah, it was suppression all around, because she's constantly trying to impress the Mormon community. Look how they judged her about her undergear. What was it? Undergarments.
The undergarments made her, protected her. I mean, she wasn't protected when she wore them to the prison, was she? And she got knocked up in the prison closet. Did she have them on then, or did she forget them in the cab?
No, I mean, she didn't have them on, 100%. She didn't have them on.
No, she had to have them off to get that baby.
Remember, she said she had the girl like Mary had Jesus, immaculate insemination.
Yeah. My two children were immaculate conception as well.
Don't make me remind you. Andrea was focused on that spot, okay? That spot in between. Don't make me say it. That spot in between, okay? That's why the man stayed with her. That's all I know, because she knows how to put it down, okay?
She definitely knows how to put that thing down. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Perhaps she learned that from the Latter-day Saints or something. Perhaps that was in the scripture. She's totally bonkers. She's totally bonkers. And I'm sorry, anybody who loves their Mormon shit, but this is a made up. This is another cult that somebody was ramming down their throat. This was all about money. This was all about money. Who has the most expensive paper? Who could, chase it back to when Jesus Christ was a boy? Come on. Anything about Christianity is nothing to do with financial. You can't pray to get anything financial from prayer. So what Bible have they been reading? Because it's not the same one that I've read.
Yeah. And that's another thing. Thanks, Slycat, for bringing that up. I was about to get into that. They didn't mention that Black people weren't allowed into the Mormon church. They didn't. Because, again, right now, for them, it works for them to say, oh, everybody's included. Because once upon a time, it was majority white. They didn't have to say everybody's included because the market was majority white, right? But now, because the market is more mixed, I think that they aim it at they're open to everybody, kind of similar to Scientology. You know what? I love the topic of Scientology because I find it so interesting. I've watched so many documentaries about it. Even that Leah Remini thing, it was amazing. If she comes on for another season, I'm definitely covering her. But
listen, Scientology is another one with the profit.
Again, they don't want no white Black people, really. But again, now the market is open. They say they're open to everybody, but they only try to get in people with money. Like that one actor, I'm gonna have to look up his name. I don't know what his name is. No, not the white one, the Black one, the Black guy who's bold. He's really old, but he's always been a Mormon. He dresses funny too. I'm gonna have to find him and see what his name is.
If you go to Utah, you'll find, like, when I saw Andrea, I was like, a Black Mormon?
Yeah.
Where do they have that at?
Yeah.
Because
clearly in Utah, but what made her go there? Because I know she's not from there.
Because I'm guessing she went there with her ex-husband. Remember, she has an ex-husband.
You see, it even said that Brandy. Ooh, even Brandy got involved in Scientology, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes, thank you, Isaac Hayes. Thank you. I was literally looking at his name right now. Look, his face is there.
Isaac Hayes.
Yeah, Isaac Hayes. He's been involved in thingy for years. Look, it even says Dougie Fresh is a proud Scientologist. Did you guys know that? Dougie Fresh?
Yeah,
no, but that makes sense.
To the cult.
That makes sense.
Dougie Fresh, he says Scientology is not a white religion. It is not just for white people. It changed how I thought. Scientology is not written with disrespect towards God. It doesn't worship something that is evil. It is scientific, mathematical, and spiritual. The Black community has to check it out and see what's there. It's not
financial.
I'm not saying it's for everyone, but you have to take a look. Even Will Smith, they're all into it. Forrest Whitaker. Oh no, that's a
they
list.
all went to the thing, but they didn't go through it. Like you have to, it's a whole process. But
yeah. Some of them just checked it out. Brandy said she checked it out after her car accident. Somebody told her it'll better you as a person, and she checked it out.
Listen,
but that's as far as she went.
What's interesting about this, right? I haven't watched it yet, so I don't know what's going to happen. But what I can foreshadow is this guy is lying about these documents.
Yes, that's what I think.
I think that too. I don't believe he's finding all these documents and nobody else has found it. No.
Yeah. Bit of a coincidence, isn't it? That he seems
too much of a coincidence. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you're selling things left, right, and center. Again, money making. As soon as you realize there's a market for it, he was out there trying to get rid of all of these things.
Perhaps that's like that was in the Bible that he wrote. Perhaps that was in the Bible that he wrote. You know, thou shalt make money. You know, I mean, these people are so deluded. It's unbelievable. But it's a good show. It's good to highlight it. It's good to know that Andrea really is full of, you know what.
Well, yeah. And they don't.
You know what is another thing? I don't know if y'all caught this with the show. You realize that everybody that's talking is male?
Yes. The only female I think was Mark Hoffman's wife.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm not sure if there's more to come, but we'll have to see. I've watched it, I think, about a month ago, so I'll have to rewatch the second and third. But there was mainly, it was mainly men because, again, the Mormon church, isn't it kind of like the woman has her role and the man, kind of like old school, right? Old school. Is it similar to, I don't want to say it, but Amish, just not dressing like that, but the ways.
Yeah, stuck in a time warp.
Yeah, like the woman cooks and raises the kids. He's out here doing whatever he does. You know what I mean? Comes back, you are just supposed to have the role of woman of the house type thing. So I think Mormons are kind of that way. I mean, I would love to look into how it works with young Mormon girls, because in Salt Lake City, I think they spoke a little bit about how they grew up, the individual ladies. But I would love to know if a girl at 18 is then encouraged to go and find a mate, or vice versa if a boy's 18, because they do encourage marriage, don't they? So I would love to know at what point does that come into it, and do they make their kids go to Mormon schools, or is there such a thing? I'm gonna have to look into that.
Absolutely. But remember, when you're in Salt Lake City, that's Mormon territory.
Yes, that's what they said. I mean, it's majority Mormon, 100%.
So it's not like, for instance, if you're a Latter-day Saint and you live someplace else, it's different than you being a Latter-day Saint in.
I see what you mean, because you can imagine in schools the curriculum would be a lot of it religion based and faith based. No.
Probably it's more like, maybe it's not religion based. I think they would only be able to do that in the private schools, but in the public schools they could definitely cut down on what type of Christianity they show.
Yeah. And I think probably, wherever you go, it's your neighbors, people that know your neighbors, people that know your parents, people that know your family. So I can imagine you always have to upkeep. And I think that's what the pressure that Andrea escaped when she left Utah, that always having to keep that image. You know what I mean? Even if a girl is walking down the street with her two friends, if other people that know your family, imagine your dad is the local priest or somebody who's a prominent name at the church or within the community, you can imagine how you're very much looked at as the example of, and you need to upkeep the image of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, all it is thou shall make money. That's the bit that they are missing off the Book of Mormons. Thou shalt be completely deluded, and thy women shall stay in the kitchen. That's what that's all about. There was no strong women on there speaking about it whatsoever. It's almost as if women don't have a place within their religion.
Yeah. Yeah, no. They're not gonna, I mean, I don't think we'll see in episode 2. I'll probably do episode 2 on Monday. So just bear with me. I'll give you guys a day or two to catch up on the other one. And then we'll do number 3 on Wednesday. So we'll just kind of keep it going like that, if possible. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with Mark Hoffman moving forward, but the fact that they made the statement of the LSD, I keep saying LSD, LDS church, it has always been secretive, you know, the fact that they've always hidden history from the public. You can't just go, there's no freedom of bloody information here. You're just not going to get it because it's so locked away. As soon as they've got it, they control the narrative and it's locked away. When this whole story came out about the fact that it's a white salamander, can you imagine the panic within the church? I mean, the main guy made a whole speech about thou shalt not believe this, and you know what I mean? Because they were just nervous and anxious about the fact that statements were being made contradicting what the church had put out originally. And what they've put out, who says that's been authenticated? Because the person authenticating it is their person.
Listen, I can tell you right now, I can smell a rat with this guy.
Yes,
same. What I personally think is he's forging it. And I wouldn't be surprised if one of those 3 of them planned these murders. I don't even think it's even the church.
No. It's something to do with these sales of these artifacts, letters, Book of Mormons.
But I think somebody figured out he was a forger. And then click. I don't know who did it, but I don't think this is because he put out, this is about truth. This is about lies. Because if he's sitting there and they're giving him money and they're giving him hundreds of thousands of dollars to lie, you know, like Diali show, the love of money, somebody's going to,
100%. Yeah.
The love of money is a root of all evil.
Always. Yeah, I agree.
It's all about money. This thing was all only about money. And you know, and it's good the way they've raised the topic as well. Because we've had Andrea ramming it down our throats for the entire season of Love of the Mormons. And now, you know, it just proves everything that I always thought it was. And I've watched all of them, so I won't spoil it. But Andrea probably woke up and saw the light. I mean, you need your long panties to be protected. She got a kid out of wedlock. You know, come on. She wasn't protected, clearly.
Oh, okay, so the fundamental LDS, that's the one that be doing those cults, and they be doing those things where they have the 12-year-old girls to the 60-year-old men. They be having like 40 wives, 60 children, and the woman be running away from them, and she be having to this is something I didn't realize about Mormons.
Yeah.
I was watching what was that TLC show called? No, Amish. But I'm sure Mormons have the same thing. It was like escaping the Amish or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
There were black people on that show.
Yeah.
I was like, honey, I stopped the show and said,
what's that?
A black Amish? And what somebody told me was that a lot of these groups adopt children.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they do.
Why? Because they don't have any of their own? Or
it's to make their community grow.
Yeah.
Right. You see, Sly Cat just said it. They adopt black kids.
Mm.
Oh, there we are. Yeah. They
But they
adopt black
adopt
children.
kids, not just black. Like you look at the show, The Amish, they adopted black, Hispanic, Asian. I'm looking, I said, where are these Mormons? I don't see them. Where they be hiding these ones at?
Oh no, hold on. I did something. Okay. Carry on.
It's interesting. It's interesting to see the Mormon because that's a whole nother monster in itself. What are they doing up there in Utah? You know, I need to know what's going on. That religion has always been it's interesting because when you live in Salt Lake City, they call them Mormons, but
Right.
everywhere else they're called Latter-day Saints. So they always throw me off.
See, that Latter-day Saints, I don't hear that as much. Mormons is more something I've heard, you know what I mean, and come across. The Latter-day Saints is kind of like,
no, that's what you hear them as. Like I know black people who are Latter-day Saints, and like you know, it's Latter-day Saints, it's Jehovah Witness, it's Seventh-day Adventist. You know, there's a lot of them, and it's like,
yes, Jehovah is another one. Oh my God. Growing up, we had a friend that was Jehovah. She was never allowed to do anything, never had a TV, never had nothing, wasn't allowed to come to school gatherings, school parties, anything was not allowed. And then what happened? When the boy turned 18, he just went off the rails. It was just awful, awful. Living in suppression.
I've got a family member who's Jehovah's Witness, and she was offended when she wasn't invited to my wedding. But she spent all of my life ramming it down our throats that she's a Jehovah's Witness, you know, and how she can't do this and she can't do that. So when I don't invite her now, she's offended. And then I said, well, I thought that was one of the rules. You weren't allowed. Oh, she's allowed to weddings. Oh, make your mind up. Which one is it? You know, they make it up as they go along. I'm tired of them. I'm
absolutely a religion that doesn't allow you to save your child's life because you can't have a blood transfusion. To me, it's unbelievable. Nah, I'm not leaving my child to pass away and she's going to a better place when I can save her.
Well, you know what I mean? I think too with Mormons is they've gotten a bad rep the last 20 years. Because do you remember that Warren Jeffs and how he went to prison because he was sitting there? Listen, he was doing crazy things. And this is the thing about religion that I have an issue with. I don't have a problem with you being religious. What I have a problem with is they picking children up and telling children to only believe this and they can't read anything else because those fundamentalists, they do the teaching, they do everything. They're not allowed anything in the secular world. And the fundamentalists still believe that black people, nobody who isn't white, and they do a lot of inbreeding and they have a lot of, you know, cousin sisters.
Right. Cousin sisters.
Yeah.
No.
The Mormon,
I'm not doing it.
But I remember that case because it was all over the news. And after that case, it gave Mormons a bad name. So everybody was saying they were Latter-day Saints. And then Latter-day Saints got a bad name. Like the past, it's been 10 years since I met a Latter-day Saints.
I'm sure there was a guy, was it Latter-day Saints? The guy that ended up marrying all these hundreds and hundreds of young girls. And they all wear these weird white dresses and stuff. I'm sure that was the Latter-day Saints. And the guy went to prison because he was having intercourse with underage girls and marrying them at 15 and stuff like that. And he would have multiple wives. Is that the one?
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that. But one thing I know about them, they do make it up as they go along, because where in your sick mind can you marry a child and be having intercourse with a child that's not even formed? You know, and that's what I can't stand about it. I don't mind if they want to make up their cult and, you know, say Jesus Christ was born on Monday at 6:45 or some crazy thing like that. If they want to make that lie up, continue with it. But do not make it up to commit crime.
Because the reason why they said black people couldn't be Mormons is because they said we're inherently evil. They're saying that,
really?
yeah, they say that we're inherently evil and we're the devil on earth. They say that our black skin is a curse. And we have black skin because Cain was cursed with black skin.
Right, I'm looking into that. We'll be
Yeah.
discussing that next episode. This is
And he is the father of us. And it's like Cain killed Abel. Listen, that's a whole nother thing. It's just they make this foolishness up as they go, and people believe it.
That's madness. It's all about being controlled by the mind. It's all about mind control with these people.
Yeah, it is.
It's control too. Yes, I remember that. Escaping polygamy. He's in jail right now, and
I can't find any episodes on that. One of the watchers, Ruth Kelly, has been messaging me saying I should look into that, but I can't seem to find the episodes. But I would love to cover that. Actually, that sounds really interesting. Escaping polygamy.
Ugh, it was awful. He's basically a liar. And the fact of the matter that they can sit here. See, this is my other problem. Why hasn't he been put to death yet? I get so sick of them with this life in prison. No. Some people just need to go. They just need to meet their maker again. Some people, you can't give them prison because he has life in prison and he's still running his cult with the young girls, and his wives are allowed to see him in prison, and he's still sending them messages. What is this?
Well, is he still allowed to have what did they say?
Conjugal.
Something visits. Yeah.
Conjugal visits.
Yes.
That's sick.
Is he, Ablavi?
I don't know, because he has. Well, maybe he's going to be in jail for life, but he went to jail for sleeping with teenage girls because he was marrying 15 and 12-year-olds. It's just disgusting.
Yeah, he was very young. They were very young. I read about that, but what can you do if the law still protects predators like that anyway? At the end, they still have a right to live. You know what I mean?
Yeah, stop feeding them in prison like Ablavi said. Don't give them life. Just cut them off. Cut them off. They don't deserve to be, breathing air. And, taxpayers, I don't know about what it's like in America, in the States, but we taxpayers in the UK, we keep these monsters alive to breathe air. And they've got human rights. I mean, what about the human rights and the terrorizing people, terrorizing innocent people?
Yeah. Having days out and stuff like that with a support worker. Yeah. No, it's just disgusting. Wrong. It's disgusting. Wrong. But I mean, go on, Abla.
The biggest issue I have, what's interesting about this, and what I want to see now, why have Mormons, I don't care that it's split, because at the end of the day, they still both read that Book of Mormon. One's a little bit more orthodox than the other one. But why have they never had to answer for this? Why have they never had to make a comment or a statement about what they've done in the past? Why are they just skedaddling in life, telling, and mind you, judging you about how you live in your secular life while they're sitting here doing all this foolishness?
Yeah. I mean, they probably even control the fact that certain journalists can't put out certain pieces that they write. Maybe, I don't know how remember Salt Lake City in Utah, it's a big area, right? It's not a small city, is it?
No, but the biggest problem I have, they're like one of the biggest missionaries around the world, right? That's problematic.
Yeah, the fact that they go out and do these 2 years missions at a time.
No, it's not just that. They are the first response when any natural disaster happens.
What?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
In America, if something happens.
When a hurricane or something happens, the Mormon Church are one of the first people to go. Yes.
To go and do what? To actually help, or to
Yeah,
pray?
they're very big in that.
Yeah, but do they go out there to recruit more, or do they go out to help?
Listen, it doesn't matter. If you're going to sit there and help somebody, and you say you're a Mormon, and somebody helps you and says this could be your life, and if you allow this to happen, aren't you doing both at the same time?
Yes. Yes.
It's
Bloody
all
hell, I
about,
didn't know that.
to me, it's all about them recruiting, just like Scientology. I see that a lot. They bring these rich people who are multimillionaires into their world, and then they have these rich people speak on this religion, on this cult. I'm not going to call it a religion; it's a cult, in my opinion. They speak on their cult, and they're brainwashing ordinary people, saying, no, it's for Black people to come on, join in and get on board. No, it's not. It's financial. The more rich people they bring into this cult, the better it looks. And they are the first people probably out there on the disaster zone. Because if somebody's lost their home and they've got nothing to eat, if this person turns up and helps them, you're going to say, yeah, they're not too bad. Yeah, I might give it a go. And they are recruiting. Of course they're recruiting. They're recruiting there, and they're going after people who are probably so down on their luck. You know, it's brainwashing yet again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, no. It's not just Mormons, but I'm saying, like, so for instance, you're in Europe, and I don't know if it's Argentina, they are very hostile towards Christians, right? So they're moving how they do missionary, and they're putting a lot more missionary in Africa. They're putting a lot more missionary in Asia, because these two land spigs, they have a lot of Muslims too. So it's like the wars. It's basically like the Crusades again.
Yeah. Between all these different organizations trying to get there first.
Mm-hmm. And listen, they do good work. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say they don't. They do go and give a lot of time and money, but you have to wonder, with an organization like this, what are they getting out of it?
Money.
Yeah. Yeah. Money. I mean, I'm sure people in politics, a lot of them are Mormons or are involved in these type of groups. So don't get it twisted. They are pushing and lobbying for certain things to be pushed through in the Senate as well. I'm sure they have all those connections. So, but we can discuss some more in episode 2. I'm going to wrap it up now. So any last thoughts, or should we just wrap it up, Ablavi and Diali?
You could just wrap it up.
Yeah, you could wrap it up. I'm glad I don't want to hear Andrea babbling on about being a Mormon. Because Tennyson ain't getting in no Mormonship with that dry head. So I'm glad that's the end of her.
Yeah, you just had to, didn't you? You just had to.
I did. I'm sorry.
Listen, I can't wait till she goes to Ghana. I can't wait.
I can't wait to see how they react when they're with their people. Okay, I would love to see her acting like she's some sort of American. Yeah, or if she gets down in the dirty, I would love to see that.
Yeah, they'll lock her up. Her and her safety pants.
But yeah, I was going to say thanks everybody for joining me. Thank you, Sly Cat, for all the input in the comments. Thanks everybody, Andrea, Ali, Ablavi, of course. Yeah, Bobo, you came in as well. Thanks guys for joining me. Obviously, this is my channel. Like, share, and subscribe. You guys know Ablavi as well. Yeah, so we'll do episode 2 in a couple of days on Monday, hopefully. Maybe a little bit earlier than today. So just make sure you hit that notification bell so you get the notification when I do go live. And yeah, on a count of 3, we'll say bye. So yeah, 1, 2, and